Hello, and welcome to Sunday Reflections at Cork Unitarian Church. Today's reflection is about AI and spirituality. Now, people have long held different views about religion and logic. Historically, there have been many attempts to introduce critical thinking into religion. Sometimes these were met with pushback, and sometimes they changed the way people thought about their faith. Back in 399 before the Common Era, the Greek philosopher Socrates was sentenced to death for promoting forms of philosophic inquiry that challenged the orthodox thinking of the people of Athens about their gods. By the 4th century in the Common Era, Christian thinking was being reshaped by the Greek-inspired rationalistic approaches, which we call Neoplatonism. From about 1100 in the Common Era to 1700, Christianity was greatly influenced by a movement called scholasticism, or scholastic theology. This approach valued logic, reason, and dialectical reasoning to understand and explain religious truths by integrating faith with Aristotelian philosophy. The 17th and 18th centuries in Europe are referred to as the Age of Enlightenment. It was characterized by an emphasis on reason, empirical evidence, and scientific method. It also challenged both the political and religious status quo by promoting humanism, democracy, and ideals of individual liberty, religious tolerance, progress, and natural rights. The Enlightenment fostered separation of church and state, religious pluralism, and the introduction of deism. Deism is the belief in the existence of God based on rational thought, without any reliance on revealed truths or religious authority. My point in sharing all of this is to illustrate that AI entering into the realm of spirituality is simply an extension of a centuries-long series of attempts to apply rational thinking to religion. This week, I came across an interesting article called Artificial Intelligence and Spirituality, a tool for engagement or a threat to transcendence. The authors were Sneža Brumek and Ivan Podnjanek, and was published in the Journal of Scientia et Fides. The rest of this reflection paraphrases or quote those authors. Their first point was to mention that contemporary society is evolving a spirituality that is broad and fluid, characterized by significant societal shift away from traditional religious institutions towards individualized, self-directed forms of spirituality. This climate has potential synergies for AI and spirituality. The article looks at 3 dimensions where AI can influence spirituality. The first dimension they call personal experiential. This is the realm of our right brain hemisphere existence of spirituality. However, while current AI applications work more directly on the left brain hemisphere, AI can still stimulate aspects of spiritual practice through tools such as guided meditation apps, AI-assisted prayer platforms, and religious chatbots. One noticeable benefit of AI in the personal experiential spirituality dimension is enhanced accessibility. AI-powered applications for prayer, mindfulness, and meditation help eliminate barriers such as the lack of physical religious spaces or spiritual guidance. By offering spiritual resources anytime and anywhere, these tools enable broader participation. AI also offers tailored spiritual support. These systems can adapt to individual users' spiritual needs by offering personalized prayers, meditations, and reflections based on preferences, emotional states, and prior interactions. In addition to personalization, AI can support mental and emotional well-being. AI-powered tools often serve as companions in times of distress, offering affirmations, meditations, or prayers that promote inner peace and resilience. Furthermore, AI-driven spirituality frequently transcends traditional denominational boundaries. By exposing users to multiple religious or spiritual traditions, AI fosters interreligious and cross-spiritual exploration. For instance, Hallow, a Catholic prayer and meditation app, integrates AI-powered recommendations based on user preferences. Since its launch in 2018, Hallow has grown rapidly, reaching over 18 million downloads in 150 different countries. And about 40% of its users identify themselves as non-Catholics. Now, one criticism of AI in the personal experiential dimension is the risk of superficiality in spirituality. AI may potentially lead users to engage in shallow, transactional interactions rather than pursue transformative spiritual experiences. Another issue is detachment from authentic community and embodied spirituality. Spirituality is often nurtured through human interaction, ritual, and shared presence. These are dimensions AI cannot readily replicate. Simulated interpersonal engagement through chatbots or virtual prayer tools may also create a false sense of connection and even ultimately contribute to spiritual isolation. Now, the communal institutional dimension of spirituality highlights that individuals realize their spiritual identity not in isolation, but through relationships and shared rituals and integration with spiritual or religious communities. This dimension reflects a fundamental human longing for belonging, recognition, and mutual support. These needs are traditionally nurtured through embodied practices, communal worship, and interpersonal care. Many churches now use AI-driven tools to facilitate online prayer groups, Bible studies, and remote pastoral support. At the same time, esoteric and alternative communities centered on practices such as astrology, tarot, or energy healing are also using AI for personalized spiritual content, algorithm-based matchmaking, and virtual mentorship. These developments enhance access and participation, but also risk substituting embodied communal belonging with algorithmically mediated experiences. One of AI's clearest contributions to the communal institutional dimension is increased accessibility to spiritual communities. By reducing obstacles such as geographic distance, disability, or institutional absence, AI platforms broaden participation. This includes both communities grounded in formal religious traditions and those centered on non-religious or esoteric spiritualities. Digital platforms now allow seekers from diverse traditions to connect, share insights, and engage in mindfulness practices across borders. AI in the communal institutional dimension carries several risks. One of them is the loss of authentic human connection. AI can facilitate interaction, but it cannot embody the emotional resonance, relational depth, or sacred presence that characterizes these traditional communities. Another risk is algorithmic bias and fragmentation. AI systems curate content based on user data, which can reinforce echo chambers and limit exposure to differing perspectives. This is particularly problematic in spiritual forums, where algorithmically generated content may entrench ideological boundaries rather than foster dialogue. Instead of broadening communal understanding, such platforms may actually deepen division and fragment spiritual discourse. AI also risks spreading misinformation or oversimplified interpretations of sacred text. Natural language processing tools can misread complex theological ideas, lacking the nuance and contextual grounding of human scholars or spiritual mentors. Without qualified oversight, AI-generated advice may mislead users across religious, secular, or esoteric traditions. Finally, there's the danger of depersonalization and commercialization. Many AI spiritual platforms operate on subscription models or sell premium content, raising ethical concerns about the monetization of sacred practices. When spiritual experiences are packaged for profit, there is a risk of turning meaningful engagement into a commodified product, shifting spiritual growth from communal, sacred journey into a consumer-driven service. The rational reflective dimension of spirituality centers on intellectual engagement with sacred texts, theological inquiry, and the philosophical search for meaning. AI is all of the traditional scriptural tools like dictionaries, encyclopedias, concordances, and commentaries on steroids. Extensive AI scriptural models have been created for Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. AI supports comparative religious analysis, linguistic tools, and pattern recognition algorithms help scholars trace doctrinal parallels and theological divergencies across traditions. AI-assisted methods can support the deciphering interpretation of ancient manuscripts, contributing to historical theology and interreligious dialogue. The rational reflective dimension of AI is that it lacks both the self-awareness and spiritual intentionality that characterize theological reflection grounded in lived experience and tradition. There is also the danger of over-reliance on AI in the preparation of sermons, teachings, and spiritual discourse. This may result in content that is formulaic or lacking in depth, particularly when AI-generated interpretations replace personal theological reflections or embodied pastoral insight. Bias in training poses additional challenges, since AI models draw from existing text, online inputs, they may produce theological, cultural, and philosophical bias. Finally, AI risks displacing traditional modes of study and reflection, potentially prioritizing knowledge acquisition over spiritual transformational growth. I really appreciate the work that Brumick and Pavacek have given us. It's provided a lot to think about with respect to AI. One of the most important things for me personally is that the good and bad points related to AI are things that apply largely to religion in general, with or without AI. Amen. And now for our blessing. May we develop the ability to temper our spirituality with rationality and critical thinking. May we be open to understanding and applying new technology for good purpose. And may we always be genuine, even when applying artificial helpers. And until next time, I wish all of you peace and blessings.